different ways.
Let's see. Here's Price. They get back into that 2-3 zone 20 seconds ago. Price kicks it out. Off straight for three. Ball batted out. Picked up. Dyson. Price 11 to shoot. Price lets it go. Oh!
How big is AJ Price there?
Onions!
Pargo to the bucket. Strip. Loose. Overtime in Seattle.
Wasn't even a game winner. Overtime.
Overtime is overtime. That's what happens.
Dude, Gus Johnson is the man.
I'm a Bill Raftery fan personally, but Gus Johnson, he's an okay second.
He's an okay second?
Uh-huh.
All right, well, welcome to Get Buckets, and if you're listening to anything else right now, don't worry, because the Get Buckets podcast is now on. And it's sponsored by nobody this week. So be sure to like it on Facebook so nobody can become somebody.
I like that. That was good. All right, let's go with the intramural team updates. And since I'm finished, I'm obligated to ask you about the Prison City Crabs. So, Harv, give me the lowdown.
We have nothing going on.
What happened last week? I thought y'all had a shot at the playoffs.
Was that really last week?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I think I buried that in the back of my mind. Okay. It really feels like 3 weeks ago. Okay, well, we show up, and they pulled some mammoth out of the bleachers, and we had a nice 6-point lead with 4 minutes to play, and we let Frodo Baggins get hot from the corner, and he hit 3 threes, and we found ourselves down 1 or 3. So, and then we went Miami Heat mode on the offensive end and couldn't put it in the goal. And thus our season ended in utter shame.
I blame it on Nick.
Okay,
it was Nick's fault. Here we go.
Okay. More importantly, though, actually, definitely not more importantly, but the Prison City Crabs softball team will be taking the field tomorrow at 8 p.m. So get there.
I won't be there.
Actually, you really have no reason not to be there. So
actually, I have. If y'all will pay for my gas, I will come.
I'll pay for your gas. Come on.
Really?
Sure.
Okay.
What are we talking? Like $10?
No, lots more than that.
What about a Hamilton?
No.
Hamilton.
Hamilton's not going to cover my gas. I don't drive a Prius.
I have multiple Hamiltons.
Need lots of them.
I have multiple Hamiltons that turn into a Jackson.
Gonna need multiple Jacksons from you.
Yeah. So, what's good? Kyle. It is conference tournament week, which is actually really, really important as far as the NCAA tournament goes. Why don't you hit me with some knowledge?
Well, first off, there's a couple games tonight to keep your eye on. Gonzaga plays St. Mary's in the championship, their conference championship, and both teams are projected to be in the field. So there's not too much to watch for there, but they've played 2 very close games this season already, and it's just going to be a solid game to keep your eye on and watch, and it might have a little to do with seeding once the NCAA tournament rolls around. And then Virginia Commonwealth plays Old Dominion, and most teams in America are going to be rooting for Old Dominion in that one because whether they win this game or not, they're set to get an at-large bid. And Virginia Commonwealth would be stealing a bid from a team that I don't want to say is possibly more deserving, but is more deserving.
Right. All good points. Did we learn anything with the last week of basketball as far as any of the wins or any of the losses that may hurt a team or something?
I don't think we learned too much more than we know we have a better idea of where the line is, of who's going to be in and who's going to be out and who deserves to be where.
I will say one thing. North Carolina is as hot as anybody right now. What are they, 13-1 or something in their last 14?
And the one loss they had was to Duke at Duke when they had the game under control at halftime.
Yeah, they're playing really impressively. But it kind of comes back to the point, which we've said on the podcast a few times, is the ACC isn't that good. So how quality are these wins? I think I'm more impressed that they actually battled back this year when Roy Williams teams in the past, especially Carolina, when they get down, they just kind of crumble. But this team has really fought back, and they're looking at a 2 seed right now, which is way higher than anyone thought they would be about 6 weeks ago.
Yeah, they've played great over the past couple months, really. But it's hard to see how good they actually are because they've played Duke twice, and that really seems to be the only true competition in the ACC. And I'm not even sure how great Duke actually is with that loss at Carolina. A great Duke team's not going to lose that badly at North Carolina or take a loss to Virginia Tech. But only the tournament will tell us, and that's the beauty of this being college basketball and not college football.
Who do you think has the most to prove during the conference tournament week?
Well, there's quite a few teams that actually do have a lot to prove just on getting into the tournament or possibly blowing their chance to get into the tournament. If you take a look at Joe Lunardi's, really his first four in, or his last four in, sorry, in his first four out, you'll get a good idea of who has what to prove. Michigan State plays Iowa in the first round of the Big Ten tournament, and then they would move on to play, I believe, Purdue. But they cannot afford a loss to Iowa. That will push them out of the tournament field. So they have to beat Iowa. Much the same in the ACC. Boston College and Virginia Tech have games against Wake Forest and Georgia Tech, respectively. And neither of those teams can afford a loss there. They're likely to be pushed out of the tournament. And then in the SEC, Alabama and Georgia are likely to meet in the second round of the tournament. Alabama has a bye waiting for Georgia to win a game and get to them. And it's projected that that is going to be a play-in game. And the winner between those two is going to be in the NCAA tournament field. Colorado needs to beat Iowa State if they want to remain in the tournament field. And then if they beat Kansas State after that, they would be a lock. And then USC, who's on the first four outline, they play Cal. And if they can beat Cal, they'll have a shot at Arizona most likely. So they still have some work to be done and could squeeze into the tournament.
I'm making you our resident bracketologist for the podcast.
There's only two of us, but I'll take it.
That's all that matters. Bad news for the Jimmers this last week, as it makes Jimmer Fredette's job even harder, that Brandon Davies was found in violation of the BYU Honor Code, which has some fun stuff in it, which is just some stuff that's frowned upon. And what he actually did was had premarital sex with his girlfriend or significant other or just somebody, which you can't do. Kind of like drinking coffee. You can't do that.
Or tea.
Or tea. And so he has now been, I guess, indefinitely suspended from the team.
They actually suspended him for the year, right. So it's certain he won't come back. But he should be back next year when nobody cares about the Fighting Jimmers because Jimmer won't be there.
Yeah, that's going to be really upsetting. We might have to, we'll hold an honorary podcast for Jimmer's graduation or something. But that does make the Jimmer's job a lot harder. How do you see this affecting them?
Well, Davies was their leading rebounder. He could get a big bucket when they needed a bucket when Jimmer was quadruple teamed. But I think they'll be okay. I think they'll be able to learn to play without him. They got beat badly in their first game without him, and then they came back and won their second game, which Jimmer had 38 points in. But I think they'll be okay. They're going to figure out how to play without him by the time the NCAA tournament rolls around. And this wasn't a team that was probably going to win it all anyways.
Oh, yeah, they were.
But now Jimmer's job is just a little tougher. He's going to have to score 5 extra points a game from absurd range.
But where I see it as a bigger problem is on defense. I really don't care about his offense. I'm concerned It hurts my bracket.
You haven't even filled out a bracket.
And I wasn't planning on it, but now I have to because this changes things.
You're such a liar.
The Fighting Gymmers are not as good as they were a week ago.
And it's a shame. There's been lots of talk about, is the honor code stupid? Is the honor code this? Is the honor code that? But the facts are that he knew what he was signing up for when he signed at BYU and then signed that he would follow the honor code. And he broke it. And that's just like breaking team rules anywhere else, even though the team rules are slightly different.
Right.
And he did the wrong thing.
You can't really fault BYU. They didn't do anything wrong. Like, you got to think about it as if you went to BYU and you were a Mormon. This is religion. This isn't just like, hey, you know what we need? We need some honor code for our basketball team. This is more advanced stuff. I don't think anyone just sat down and said, you know what? I don't want our basketball players drinking coffee.
Oh, and that goes for everybody in the student body.
Right.
It's punished differently because I'm sure if someone in the student body had premarital sex, they would get some form of warning or something from the school. But Davies' warning just comes in the form of being removed from the team.
That's rough. That is rough. And changes my bracket.
From non-existent to existent.
Right. Because now I have to fill one out. Or maybe I don't, and I can stick with the Gymmers.
Probably not. I did wear my Gymmer tee yesterday, in case you were wondering.
I was wondering. I was going to ask how it's going. Has it made it through a wash cycle yet?
It has made it through a wash cycle. Still looks great. Wore it to the Mavs game last night. Just because I feel like it's an appropriate shirt to wear literally anywhere.
Oh, definitely. Especially in the Dallas area, the Dallas Metroplex.
There's no doubt.
NBA talk.
Here we go.
Here we go. All right. The Western Conference playoff race is actually somewhat exciting to look at, as you have Spurs, Mavs, Lakers, Thunder as the top four teams. Then, not to pencil them in, but we have Blazers and Grizzlies as likely playoff teams. So then we have these other five teams that have tougher schedules or looking to pull on the 8th spot or the 7th spot. Okay, we'll start with the Jazz, who are a game and a half out of 8th, and they have 13 of their last 19 games against above 500 teams. Do you see the Jazz making the playoffs?
I don't necessarily see the Jazz making the playoffs. They're 2-8 over their last 10 games. That's not a stat that I like to see. They're still probably trying to figure out how to play together after losing the guy that made them play together, Darren Williams. So I don't see them in. What about you?
I would agree with that. I don't see him in. I think that we've kind of seen it when Darren Williams went to the Nets. The Nets are significantly better just with him. Like, they're phenomenally better. And so you lose that, and now your team is suddenly not a playoff team, and you're 2-8 in your last 10, which, they were losing kind of before he left, but now they're –
their wins are Sacramento and Indiana. Nothing to write home about.
Exactly. So we will rule them out. That's officially get buckets.
No buckets for them. No buckets for them.
No buckets. Okay, the Suns also a game and a half out of 8th. They just got news yesterday that Channing Frye is out. What, a while?
Yeah,
he's out a long time. And so him, in my mind, he was a huge part of their team, and is what they do, and kind of he creates matchup problems because he's a big that'll run and shoot, and so I'm ruling them out just because they have 15 games left against above 500 teams, and they lost a starter who scores double-digit points for them.
I agree with you 100%, and there's really not much more to add on top of that.
All right, here's where we disagree, maybe. The Hornets, who currently hold the 6th seed, they have a 4-game lead over the 9 seed or the non-playoff teams, but 15 of their 17 remaining games are against above 500 teams, and they've lost 11 of their past 17. So they're not doing well lately, and they have a tough schedule remaining.
I think a lot of their playoff chances are going to depend on how long Chris Paul is actually out for. Uh, got a concussion last night. He collided with Ramon Sessions in a win over the Cavs. If he comes back, I think that they have a fighter's chance at making the playoffs because what we're looking at right now is two spots to go between Houston, Denver, and New Orleans, and I think that they're capable of grabbing one of those two spots.
I guess I would say that they probably have a better chance than Nuggets, but that 15 out of 17 really scares me if I'm a Hornets. And what I guess even scares me more is Chris Paul's out right now. And the only easy game that you pencil in a win is the Kings, which is this week. And so after that, there's no gimme games. There's no Cavaliers, there's no Raptors, there's no Warriors, there's no game that you look at and you say, "Oh goodness, a break." And so that would scare me if I'm a Hornets fan. And also losing 11 of your past 17, they're trending downward after they won 9 in a row, I think. And so I will put the Hornets out of the playoffs.
You're an idiot. Then you have the Nuggets, who are in fifth place in the West, half a game ahead of the Hornets. They don't have a superstar without Carmelo Anthony there. What do you think their fate's going to be the rest of the way out?
I keep thinking they're going to fall, but they keep winning or kind of hanging on and keep winning games without Carmelo. I mean, they're talented. They just they just kind of spread the wealth and they let J.R. Smith chunk about 50 shots. This is like his dream scenario. It's like, let's trade away our superstar so I can chunk 50. And
That's everybody's dream scenario. I'd love to be J.R. Smith right now.
But they may have too big of a lead. I mean, it's only 3.5 games or 4 games or something, but I don't, if they make the playoffs, it'll be close and they will get beat in the first round. They just have nobody on that team is going to step up and instantly become a superstar that they need.
I agree. I think George Karl is a great coach, and I think that's why they'll be in the playoffs in the long run, is because he'll be able to coach this team to the playoffs. But no matter who is coaching them, they're just not going to have the firepower to do anything once they get there. So I'm going to say the Nuggets are going to be in the Playoffs too.
So did you have New Orleans in?
I did.
So that means you think Houston's out?
I don't know. It's really hard to say. I'm kind of wavering on my New Orleans decision, to be completely honest with you, just because Houston does have the cupcake schedule.
Right.
The rest of the way out, they're 7-3 over their past 10. You might have just convinced me in my head to get New Orleans out of there and push Houston in.
All right.
I'll say it. Yeah. I'll put Houston in and take New Orleans out for you.
Good work. Good work. Looking at the Rockets' schedule, it's so easy. There's only 10 games against teams above 500. And, I mean, that's out of your 18 games. So you have those 8 games that you should win. They're 7-3 in their last 10. They're playing well. They should sneak in. And my dream scenario is they get the 8 seed and have to play the Spurs because we hate the Spurs.
Absolutely. I don't think you would beat the Spurs, but if that's your dream scenario, then fine.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I don't know if we could either, but I would definitely love to see it because hate the Spurs, hate the Mavs. As long as we don't play the Lakers, I'm okay. One thing we haven't talked about, you have longer hair than I do.
I do have longer hair than you do. Also, Luke Walton has longer hair than both of us.
I mean, that's really not fair, though, because I tried my best. I shampooed twice daily. Like when it says repeat, rinse, lather, and repeat, I repeated, and I did it twice.
I win. I'm better than you.
But
it's just...
I should have longer hair.
Okay, here we go. Let's move on to something else that will make you feel better. The past week, Nathan went 4-2 in his picks. I went 5-1. However, Nathan is 18-11 overall as the college basketball season comes to an end and we move into conference and NCAA tournaments. And I'm just 16-13. So Nathan outpicked me.
Thank you.
Nathan outpicked me. Congratulations, Nathan.
I would like to thank my parents for having me. It's been an honor to go against such great competition. Unfortunately, you fell short. But I mean,
Luckily, I didn't fall near as short as Nathan fell during football season.
I thought this was my acceptance speech, not yours. So
Sorry, I just went all Kanye on you. Congratulations, you truly outperformed me. But I must say that it'll never happen again.
there's always next year.
There's never next year.
Well, we don't know if that'll be next year or not. Who knows how
There's-
long this could continue?
We could end up hating each other by the end of next week and never talking again.
By the end of next week?
I don't know. We could end up hating each other by the end of this podcast.
That's doubtful.
Newman.
That's a good way to start.
I guess that moves on to the fact that the podcast won't be in its normal time frame next week.
Right. We're going to have to figure something out. I have this thing called spring break. Kyle's currently on it, but Kyle is just he's committed to get buckets, and he is getting buckets somewhere else this week.
Also, my family doesn't believe in vacation, so that also helps my case.
I wasn't going to mention that, but I'm glad you did. But
I'm not going to throw you completely under the bus here.
Yeah, next week we'll figure something out because we have to give you our NCAA preview show. So next week will be, I'm guessing, 100% college tournament talk to help you fill out your brackets and put BYU in the championship. We'll figure out a way to make it happen.
We'll even rearrange the bracket.
Yeah, if I have to change teams, I will. I'm not afraid to put Wyoming in the bracket because Jimmer loves playing them.
Onions!
So glad you threw onions out there.
Get back into our game.
Oh, we're bringing that back. It's not playoff time yet. Well, you're still a few months from that.
It's always playoff time.
Oh, that's such a good line. I'm so impressed right now. That was amazing. It's always playoff time. Sorry.
You should feel dumb for.
I do.
That's the worst. I'm disappointed in you.
The worst again? God.
You're literally the worst.
At what?
Being bad.
The worst at being bad.
It's a compliment.
Yeah, if you want to suck, you would want to be the worst at being bad.
No.
Yes.
No, if you want to suck, you want to be the best at being bad.
No.
Yes.
You'd want to be you would just want to be the worst.
You would want to be the best at being bad.
This conversation is highly confusing.
Okay, so if your goal is to be bad, if you want to be the very, very worst.
I don't. I want to be the best. I want to win no matter what.
Okay, so we're talking about Nick here, and he wants to be really, really bad.
Okay.
He wants to be the very worst. You don't want to be bad at being bad because that means you're not accomplishing your goal and that you're actually good.
Wouldn't that mean you're being bad, though, still? Like, you'd be the lowest of lows?
No, you would be the highest of lows.
Okay.
At least from my perspective. And if you're good at being bad, that means you are really, really bad. See, I was attempting to compliment you.
I just have no knowledge of this because all I do is, do positive things, and I don't ever lose.
I was attempting to compliment you. Saying,
I can't ever see that because all you ever do is just bash me.
Nathan, you are beautiful and charming and have a lovely heart and a lovely soul, and I want to spend my life with you on this Get Buckets podcast.
Oh my gosh, this is getting so good. There's love in the atmosphere.
Will you podcast with me for forever?
Yes, I will. Do I have to say I do?
Not until we have a ceremony.
Oh, yeah.
This was just the proposal.
Wait, why did you get to propose? This is my podcast, technically. Will you spend forever on the podcast with me?
I would love to. Oh my gosh. I've been just waiting for this day for so long.
That was good. Real tears. This is good. Maybe sweat. There's really no way to tell.
It's a tear. It's a tear.
That was by far the most awesome moment we've ever had. Do you have anything to say to our lovely viewers who are all lovely?
Thanks for listening. And never forget, you can get buckets in anything that you do.
That is true.
And it's always playoff time.
That's a recent one. I would like to shout out to the original 8. You all know who you are.
Get buckets.